Welcome back to another video and welcome to my humble garage, which over the years has seen a few tasty rides come and go. From a WRX track car, we had the Lotus Exige, Lexus RCF, we also had the Audi RS3, BMW M3 and a host of others. But today, there's a new kid on the block and I think it's time you guys met. That's right, we're heading back into the world of JDM with this, a 2024 Toyota GR Corolla. This latest offering from the boffins at Gazoo Racing was released to the world last year to much acclaim and fanfare, and as a result there's heaps of reviews on YouTube. So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. It's no secret that the GR Corolla, at least for a Corolla, is wildly expensive. In fact, here in Australia, you won't get much change out of $70,000. So what I want to find out today is there really a $70,000 car underneath the skin? Or is this just a hyped up marketing exercise? My name's Alex, welcome back to the Frack 77 channel, where today it's time to take a deep dive on the GR Corolla. So unlike the GR Yaris, which was a homologation special designed for entry into the WRC, the GR Corolla, despite its flared wheel arches, bulging bonnet and hood vents, is a homologation special for a race car that doesn't really exist. So does that mean Toyota could afford to cut corners? Is it just an excuse to tap into the market of people that wanted a four-door GR Yaris? And is it just a pimped out version of a standard Corolla? Well, no, not really. Let's start with the good stuff. Under the bonnet, you'll find the same 1.6 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder motor that you find in the GR Yaris. Although in the Corolla, the power has been bumped a little to 221 kilowatts and 370 newton meters of torque. For a hot hatch that weighs just over 1,400 kilos, those are fairly solid, although fairly responsible power figures. It's a power plant that's really solid, it's well proven, and it exudes Toyota reliability. The engine is matched to a 6-speed manual gearbox with a fantastically short throw. I did find in the first 1,000 kilometers the gear shift was a little bit labored, but it seems to have loosened up nicely now. It's certainly a gear shift that requires confidence, and you'll need to grab a fistful when changing gears whilst you're driving in anger. One thing I don't like is the dual mass flywheel. Now, after a few decades of driving manuals, I like to think that I can execute a smooth gear change. And in fact, if the GRC is driven sedately, the gear changes are relatively smooth. But if you drive it in anger and you try and execute rapid gear changes, you kind of get what I like to call this flywheel hop between gear changes, which can really interrupt the flow if you're really trying to rapidly row through the gears. And then we come to the exhaust, probably one of the most divisive design cues on the GRC. Now, I can't think of another car that executes a triple exit exhaust quite the same way, and there's certainly no mistaking which car you're following when you look at this rear end. Now, of course, as with most modern cars, even with its valved center section, it's far too quiet and certainly could do with a bit of an upgrade. Spoiler alert. But anyway, listen to a couple of revs of a standard GRC. But since we're around the back, let's talk about exterior styling. Actually, no, let's talk about the quality of execution of the exterior styling. Take, for example, this rear bumper, which is bespoke to the GRC and obviously designed to house the massive muffler and the triple exit exhaust. But look how flimsy that is. I even thought a bracket had come loose underneath. Certainly not what you'd expect from Toyota, and certainly not what you'd expect from a $70,000 car. Talking about the rest of the exterior styling, well, I like it. I just think there was a couple of opportunities missed by Toyota. Take, for example, this rear spoiler. Like, this was the perfect opportunity to put on a hefty WRC inspired, maybe a double wing spoiler to really differentiate the GRC rather than this piddly little excuse that we get on the GTS models in Australia. In fact, I think this is what you get on a standard Corolla. Yes, there are aftermarket options. Yes, I am making inquiries, but I do think there was an opportunity missed here for Toyota to come to the party. As for the rest of the design, well, I love it. I love the bulging bonnet with the functional hood vents. I love the flared arches front and rear. It's a little bit of a shame that the rear arches are kind of tacked on rather than being bespoke panels like they are on the GR Yaris. But I understand that's a cost-cutting exercise and allows for adaptation across the four-door platform. Again, with the side skirts, love these, but the fitment, a little like the rear bumper, is a little bit flimsy and not what you'd expect in terms of quality from Toyota. In terms of ride height and wheels, well, I think it's okay. The wheels look pretty good, although they are an absolute bugger to keep clean, but they do cover a very impressive brake setup. When pushed hard, this brake setup really does perform excellently. Now, that's not to say there's not room for some improvement with some fatter wheels and some lower suspension to just improve the stance of the GRC a little bit. And that's not to say that it handles badly. In fact, that's quite the opposite, but we'll get to that a little bit later. In terms of in-car tech, unfortunately the GRC kind of falls short here with an infotainment system that is small and restrictive. The lack of a rotary dial means that you're constantly fumbling around on this tiny touchscreen just for basic function, and it seems to be a generation behind itself. The digital dash is a nice touch, but again there's a missed opportunity here with limited amounts of configuration and some sort of clumsy menus. It means that the options that are available to you, you won't end up using because it's just too difficult to navigate through them. There are some nice things. You've got a heated steering wheel, heated seats, a head-up display, and they try to fill the tech void to some degree. But then again, you miss out on some really simple stuff like rain-sensing wipers, auto-dipping side mirrors, and even an armrest. But it's the tech that you can't see that helps redeem the GRC. Take, for example, quality dampers, torsion LSDs, 349 extra spot welts, 2.8 meters of extra structural adhesive, high-end tires and rims, and not to mention the development costs. And you start to understand where the excessive cost of the vehicle comes from. And we haven't even touched on the Trick all-wheel drive system, which defaults to a 60-40 front split, but you can go 50-50. You can even go 30 front, 70 rear if you want to harness your inner Ken block. At the end of the day, $70,000 is a lot of money. But in today's new car market, it isn't absurd. So to put it into context, it'll get you a base model Audi A3 or Mercedes A-Class. It'll get you a Abarth 500e or MG4 for those of us that are electrically inclined. Or it'll get you a Golf R or a WRX for those of us that want to move into the hot hatch sphere. But out of all of those cars, nothing for me matches the driver engagement, the rarity and the uniqueness of the GR Corolla. And therein lies the conundrum. On the surface, the Corolla may seem overpriced, and as a daily runabout, it may very well be. To understand the value proposition of this car, we need to drive it. I mean, we need to really drive it. What we need is a racetrack. Welcome then to DRM, a 1.6 kilometre test circuit located near Perth Airport, the perfect place to uncover the GR Corolla's true capabilities. So today we're sharing the track with a whole bunch of other tasty cars as well as part of a track day organised by Good Vibes Track Day. So if you're local to the area, I'll put the links in the description below, and if you want to bring your own car out here and have a bit of fun, this is the place to do it. Just get this first sighting lap in, starting out wide. So first impressions, the initial turn in is phenomenal. Wow, okay. And as you start to push on, it does want to understeer a little bit, but then you lean on the throttle and it just tucks it back in. Bit of body roll. So you just settle the car into the corner. Yeah, this is good. I love this. You can definitely feel that front drive biased as you push through. But I gotta say, this is doing a fantastic job, even in these horrible conditions. Power is good. Gear change is fantastic with that short throw. Clutch, yeah, actually, it's doing quite well. That, what was I talking about before? The flywheel bounce doesn't really seem to affect it out here on track. I mean, this is the thing. The car is really starting to make sense out here. Okay, session 2. Changes we've made. We are now in 50/50 drivetrain. So I think they call that track mode. We put the drive mode into sport, and a little bit terrifyingly, I've turned ESC off. Let's see how it goes. Okay, first sharp corner. What's 50/50 do? Oh yeah, oh wow, okay. That is a dramatic difference. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of four-wheel slip here. This is cool, I like this. Yeah. The nannies are still, even though I've got ESC off, are still cutting in quite a lot. But on the plus side, these seats really holding me in nicely. Oh yeah, turn in oversteer, love that. Yeah, so you can tip it in and induce a bit of oversteer, and the nannies will pretty much cut in and stop any shenanigans. Brakes, amazing, absolutely holding their own. Yeah, we're still getting a little bit of understeer, even in this 50/50 split. Yeah, very interesting. If you, in the 50/50 mode, try and power out, it sort of pushes through the corner. But then when you lift off, that sort of semi-ESC is, I don't know, it's tapping on certain brakes. It pulls the front of the car in. Definitely a lot of computer work going on. All right, last run for the day. Everything is switched off, all the nannies are switched off, and we're in rear-wheel drive. Let's hope we don't bin it. Gonna have to be on my toes now. It's not gonna save me. Oh yeah, there comes the back end. That's better. Oh, I could just use a couple more horsepower, couldn't it? Get it lined up. Nearly didn't catch that one. Oh, I nearly made a mess of that. Now we certainly have to be a bit more switched on. The nannies were really helping out before, but this is where it's at. This is where it is at. This car is coming alive. Okay. Okay, now I wish the seat would hold on to me a bit better. Now we're getting chucked around. Tight left. Oh, oh my God, that is awesome. It's all about setting the car up, and then you can really control the slide. So really about this slow in, fast out kind of mentality. All right, let's have another go at this. Slow in, line it up. All right, we've got a bit of lap traffic that we're catching up to, but that's okay. We're just playing with it now. Start out wide, punch it. Well, now that I've had a chance to calm down and collect my thoughts, it's time to summarize what was going on track. Obviously, it was filmed on a different day. It was very wet, which I'm kind of glad about because it kind of got me to test the car in a bit more of a slow motion kind of way without hanging on the edge of grip that was available. So starting with the first session, we had all the nanny aids on. We were in that default 60-40 front wheel drive kind of setup, and I found that the turn in was really sharp. It then was followed by progressive understeer, which you could kind of dial out by applying a bit more throttle. And you know, basically the car was doing all the work for me, which was great to start with. It was a good introduction to the car, but after a while it kind of became underwhelming. The next session was with the driveline set up in 50-50 with the ESC off. Now, out of all the modes, this was probably my least favorite. I found that sharp turn-in kind of disappeared. The car was really scrubbing through the corners, and even applying a bit of throttle wasn't really doing anything. It was very much behaving still in that kind of front-wheel drive mode. And I found that the ESC was still intervening, even though I had switched it kind of to that first level of being off, not completely off. It was still intervening really early. I'm gonna have to save my judgment to try that mode in the dry, but certainly in the wet, this wasn't doing the car any favors. But it was the last session where I had the most fun. So here we had the car set up in the most rear wheel drive orientation, so 70 rear, 30 front, with the ESC completely off. I mean, like off. You gotta hold it down for like 3 seconds. And now you could translate that really sharp turn-in into a beautiful power oversteer. I found that the best method was to come into the corner not too fast, let the weight settle onto the front wheels, onto the outside wheel that you're turning, aim for the apex, and then give it a bootful and really control that slide as you come out. I nearly overcooked it on my first try because I didn't really understand how the car was going to react. But once you figure that out, it's a lot of fun and really controllable as well. So what's my final verdict on the GR Corolla? Well, it really depends on the buyer and its intended use. If you're looking for something that's going to give you a spirited drive on your commute to work, or maybe do a coastal run or a run through the mountains on the weekend, then perhaps I would suggest there are better options on the market. Certainly options that are faster, have more features, and have a better equipped cabin. But if you're a driving purist at heart and you're more about how a car feels to drive rather than winning the odd traffic light drag strip, then the GR Corolla starts to make a whole lot more sense. And if you foresee at any time in your ownership going down to a skid pan or a track day, then I think you would struggle to find anything more engaging or capable than the GR Corolla, at least in the new car market. Is it perfect? No. For me, there's too much body roll for my liking. It's too quiet, it lacks some basic cabin amenities, and I feel that it could look a little bit more aggressive. But do I have buyer's remorse after owning the car for 6 months? Well, if you'd asked me before today, I might have said a little bit. But since I have experienced the full power of the dark side, I'm hooked and I cannot wait to get this car back on track. If you're the sort of person that enjoys driving a car more than having people look at it, if you're the sort of person that doesn't worry about driving a Corolla, and if you're the sort of person that can appreciate the capabilities that are lying underneath the skin rather than being flaunted outside, then I highly recommend that you get yourself some seat time in a GR Corolla and see what all the fuss is about. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed watching as much as I did creating it, please give me a like and consider subscribing, because in the next few weeks we are going to be absolutely transforming the GR Corolla with a whole raft of aftermarket goodies that have been arriving over the last couple of months, which I'm super excited about, and you don't want to miss that. So until then, I'll see you next time.